The first version were just like a boring robot. Okay, it's AI, it's gonna be a robot that is smiling. If we are digitizing human experiences, who is actually sitting on the other side? It's an actual team member. One is a designer, one is an SEO expert, one is the project manager. Let's just try and start with the shape. Maybe the top bit here is the nose. Kind of threw in that little antenna here that helps balance the head. Index is in charge of SEO. I wanted to indicate speed. Pixel is the frustrated designer. Nothing is good. He can see what we're doing wrong. Also thinking about this from an art perspective, how can I make them be art pieces in their own right? Picasso was a big influence on how I was painting with oils and things like this. When we first started working on the AI implementation, I started with that mindset of we're just digitizing human experiences, which has been the mantra for quite a few years in terms of how we're trying to do things. If we are digitizing human experiences, really what happens in our implementation is that instead of our users needing to have a team to speak to and review their work and collaborate with, we now gave you the team. It started from this mindset that, okay, who is actually sitting on the other side of these conversations? It's an actual team member, each one skilled in a specific skill set. And that started leaning into, all right, let's just have a team of team members. Each one is a designer, one is an SEO expert, one is the project manager that kind of wrangles everything in there, one's in charge of voice, other in accessibility, and so on. With this mindset, then we came into the challenge of how are we going to present them? Is this just going to be like a generic AI name and we just say SEO? Or it could have been exactly like that, which is also fair, and you see a lot of these stuff in terms of how people implement these types of AI agents where it's just like a robot, you literally have an icon of a robot, very kind of generic. Now, I also looked at it from a perspective that our audience are creative people for the most part. They want to have nice things. They want to have creative stuff surrounding them. The level of aesthetics that is required to serve this audience is different compared to other segments, to other types of people. You can see from my background that it's nice to have a nice environment, We started thinking in the direction of, all right, there are going to be characters. Which characters? How are they going to be structured? How is this going to work? And really the first version were a few robots. This was the first version. It was literally just like a boring robot. We even had them as characters here a little bit more like this, And this is super generic and kind of boring, not creative at all. It's just what you would expect. Okay, it's AI. It's going to be a robot that is smiling and maybe in different colors or something like this. So it's very much like the safe approach, the expected approach. But if you want to have the mascot be memorable, it needs to connect to something that is a little bit beyond when it comes to the company, the way that you're doing things. There's a why that matters a lot. And that's exactly what I tried to play with this here. Said, all right, let's just try and start with the shape. And then just maybe the top bit here is the nose. And so if that's the case, what would the other parts be? But then maybe they're still robots. So I kind of threw in that little antenna here that helps balance the head in terms of this is the nose, because this is kind of like a counterweight if you think of the base here at the top of the head. So that was the idea, and that creates that kind of connection. If this is here, the nose is here, then you already have that alignment of how to place the two items to make this feel like a nose. Then I just started playing with all kinds of different concepts, what it could be, and just threw a bunch of ideas onto the page really, really quickly just to experiment with all this kind of stuff. Imagine this was a pixel.
Yeah, like Kirby. Yeah.
It's hard to imagine now that this could have been the characters, but it's funny, even
It's funny because we can ask the AI what we thought about their original kind of concepts.
now we can. Yeah, at the time we didn't have the AI to ask these questions, but
Yeah. Is that a baby glitch or baby pixel?
yeah, this was Glitch. This was the first version of Glitch for sure. And this was kind of Clero, and I tried to look at them from a designer perspective. And you see, this was Navi, but then he became a she. And so it's really an iterative process to try and get it. And you can see how the fidelity and the kind of ideas start to be articulated as you scroll down. You literally see the thinking process and how things shaped up. Yeah, this was Glitch before this. And I tried to give each one of them characteristics and personalities based on how they act and think. I would even say beyond that, that for most of them, I have a person in mind. And so they're mocked after people that I know that are actually in these roles, and they're a bit of characters as well. So you just kind of create a caricature of the person. For example, Lexi, she's in charge of the content. So let's give her this kind of words on her clothes. So it connects with that mentality. If Index is in charge of SEO, I wanted to indicate speed. That's why that kind of glasses, and you have that kind of analytics stuff on his shirt initially. Clero is the project manager. He needs to be the one that communicates with clients as well, a little bit more reserved, a little bit more professional in that way. And of course, you have a Pixel here on the top that is the frustrated designer. Nothing is good. Everything can always be better, and he can see what we're doing wrong, and that's why he's never satisfied and has that kind of mentality. And also
sounds quite familiar there, Vito. I'm certainly pulling out certain aspects of these characters that were absolutely inspired by real life and nationalities. Yeah, they're French. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. But then I thought, all right, these are going to be AI characters, so maybe I can just leverage AI to level them up. And this is exactly what happened by bringing those basic 2D characters into the game and letting AI play with them. And I was also thinking about this from as I was prompting into different versions, let's include some concepts of ruggedness. These characters has seen things. They're not new. And so that's why you have all this grime and dirt on the face, because they actually went through the struggles for you. Before that. Also thinking about this from an art perspective, how can I make them be art pieces in their own right? So got influenced here from Cubism, which Picasso was always my favorite artist, even as I was a teenager. The first art book that I got was a Picasso kind of an art book that an architect uncle of mine gave me when I was very, very young. Later on, when I was in high school and was doing plastic art as a major, Picasso was a big influence on how I was painting with oil and things like this, on canvases. And I really like the concept of bringing the entire perspective into the front, so that when you look at it from the front, you might see the ear that is on the back, and you might see the eye that you can't see otherwise, and to bring the whole thing into one place, and then you really don't know what's behind. That's really one of the core elements of Cubism, or specifically Picasso's style in the later years, at least. And so yeah, so you can see all of this stuff bundled into here.